We're trying out an autofocus this week, so we'll see how that goes. Hi, I'm the Warrior Witch and you can call me Nike. So as you guys may or may not have noticed, I took last week off because I was on vacation. And that's kind of going to be the topic of this week's video. Not the vacation part, but more of doing witchcraft on the road or when you're away from home. We're not always going to be at home when we want to do our witchy thing. And some of us get a little bit stuck on the idea of needing to have your altar and your home space and having all of your things here, that we kind of forget that we can do things when we're not in front of that altar space. And it's part of why I talk about travel altars sometimes, and it's part of why I try to stress things like reading and meditation, because there's always things that you can do when you're not at home in front of your witchy space. If I don't have my altar with me and I don't have my supplies with me, does that mean that I can't do magic anymore? Does that mean that I can't do any deity work or that I can't do any of my stuff? No, it means that I just have to get a little bit more creative. Now, I actually have travel altars that I have for myself, one that's pocket-sized and one that's like a bigger box. I am so sick of political calls. So I have two travel altars actually, and one is like pocket-sized, it's like a tin this big. I've showed it on here before. And I have a box that is quite a bit bigger. I think it used to be a tackle box, but I've repurposed it to be a travel altar that's a little bit more obvious because I'm able to be out. And obviously some of this will depend on how far out of the broom closet you're able to be, but for me, I'm able to be a little bit more open. So I can carry this stuff with me and be pretty blatant about it. And some of this is gonna work if you're in the broom closet, some of it's not, so just apply what you can and try to think creatively if you aren't able to be out. So I think one of the most obvious and easy things is going to be like meditation and prayer if you are religious. So meditation anybody can do. You can do it anywhere at any time. You don't have to be laying down. If you can sit, then you can probably meditate. You can even meditate standing. There's lots of different ways to do it, but just the easiest ways that you'll find are going to be sitting or standing. So if you can find a chair and you can get 5 minutes, you can meditate. That's really, really easy. And I think is a very healthy thing for everybody to do, especially when things are as tense as they are right now. I think meditation can do us a lot of good. There's also your typical like grounding and connecting with the earth, which it's a little bit harder now because it's getting colder and you might not be able to get to the grass, but I find even if I just go outside, maybe like just find some sort of nature. We have a lot of evergreen type stuff here, so like cedar and pine and things like that. If I can just find like a tree to be at, or even just to reach out and touch, that can help me a lot too. Now this one's gonna be a little bit harder if you're not out. This option probably won't be as available to you, but I will give options if you're not. So books. I find that if I'm on the road, the easiest thing for me to do is just do more research into whatever topic I'm looking into at that moment or whatever thing I'm trying to practice. So for me lately, if you've seen any of my social media, it's been traditional Hellenistic astrology, but I also got two different books in that I'm really, really excited about right now. One is the Pagan Book of Prayer and Ritual. And I think this book is really awesome. It has all sorts of different sections for stuff that you want to look into. There is stuff like calling on the gods, stuff for the home. They even have one that is for like, I gotta find it. Here it is. There's even a prayer for computer spirits, which I think is really cool. It's under the mind and soul section if you get this book. But the other thing I really like about it is that it's not just your typical like Celtic and Greek gods. It actually has a pretty good mix. And I won't be getting all of them, of course, but there's Greek, Norse, Celtic, Irish, Hindu, Mesopotamian, Chinese, Japanese, like there's a lot of cultures in here. It's not just your typical Western European ones, and it seems to be pretty well sourced because the back bibliography is huge. So if you're looking for something that's pretty comprehensive and just a good jumping off point or a good reference point that you want to be able to grab stuff from, it goes by God, it goes by section. You can easily look up a lot of this stuff, and I think it's really awesome. This book I don't have a physical copy of yet. That's actually coming in the mail soon, but the next book that I'm also very excited about, it came out, you're seeing this on Tuesday, which is the 3rd? Yes. So you're seeing this on Tuesday the 3rd. This came out 2 days ago, but you should go get yourself a copy right now, and that's Temperance Alden's Year of the Witch. Now this is not your typical Wiccan Wheel of the Year book. This is actually not Wiccan at all. If you are Wiccan, you can still use it for that, but this is written by an author, Temperance Alden, who lives in Florida. And coming from experience, after living in Florida for 14 years, the Florida seasons are not the same as the Wheel of the Year describes, because the Wheel of the Year is pretty specific to like England. So for a lot of people, the wheel just doesn't fit the same way because the holidays don't fit the same way. I mean, here in Wisconsin, it's pretty cold, and so most of the year, like when we're having our fall or spring celebrations, like Samhain and Beltane, it's snowing here. I mean, we get snow so much of the year, so it doesn't really feel like fall or harvest, and it doesn't really feel like spring and life when you're buried under 6 feet of snow. So the book is all about a very intuitive approach to the Wheel of the Year, finding holidays that you feel right celebrating and creating your own sort of holiday schedule versus following this ascribed one that doesn't work for you and doesn't make the seasons feel like they make much sense. So the Wheel of the Year for the Wiccan Way didn't really work for me, but Temp's book is amazing. It even has a section for budget witchcraft. So if you're on the road and you really just want to keep the witchy stuff going, I think books are kind of going to be the best way. Now, if you're in the broom closet, this is only going to work if your family doesn't snoop through your stuff. And I would hope that they wouldn't, because it's a huge invasion of privacy, but electronics generally are going to be a great way to be able to read stuff without really getting caught. There are a lot of like free PDFs that are out there of like stuff that people put out for free on purpose that you could keep as reference guides, and you can purchase digital books. There are apps so that you don't actually download the books yourself. It's within the app. And so Scribed, I've mentioned before, or Audible, those are very, very common. You can get digital books and read them wherever you are. I like to keep my digital books on my Amazon Fire, which I adore. I actually got a cover for it now, so it's a lot nicer to grip and hold on to. But I have this, and I also have a Google Drive account, so you can keep a lot of your information on your Google Drive account and not have to worry too much about it being physically on a device, and you can access it anywhere. So reading is a great way to keep up with your studies when you're on the road. Now let's talk deity work. Deity work, we also get really stuck in this mindset of like leaving offerings at your altar and giving them stuff, giving them food, giving them herbs, and we get sort of stuck in that like it has to be a material thing. But deity work really doesn't have to be. A lot of deity work is doing acts of service for them. So if your deity is related to dogs, you could volunteer at an animal shelter. If your deity is related to food and hearth and home, just cooking a meal can be a devotional act to them, that kind of thing. So remember that acts are a thing that you can do for your deity, but you can also do prayer, you can also do meditation, you can just take a few minutes out of your day to specifically choose these few minutes. I am essentially like, that is your sacrifice to them, that is your offering, is your time itself, just spending that moment thinking about them and thinking about what they mean to you, thinking about how that fits into your life and ways that you continue to work for them. That time can be your deity work on the road, and it can be completely silent. You don't have to say a word for it to be devotional. Think about people going to church in Christianity and praying there. Most of the time, if you're doing solo prayer, it's just that. It's silent, hands together in front of you, just praying to God quietly. Nobody has to hear what you're praying for, because it's meant to be kind of private and personal, just between you and God. So the same can be said with pagan gods. You don't have to have your devotion be something that you're saying out loud. It can just be you praying alone in your own head to that deity. You can also give small offerings like food, and a sneaky way you could do this if you're in the broom closet is you could just section off a portion of your plate, push it to the side, and save that for the end of your meal, and you silently offer that food to them. You eat the rest of the meal, and then that portion, after you've left it during the course of that meal, then you eat it. Or it could be just, oh, I'm full, and then you maybe go throw it outside in the compost or something. Most of the time you're not gonna have like the compost option, so I would say it's fine to eat your offerings because you've given it to them first and given them time during that meal to share with you. So at the end of the meal, so that it doesn't go to waste, you eat it. Now, if you're able to be a little bit more out, or you can find a couple more minutes of private time, especially if you're able to go outside, I think travel altars are a great option for witchcraft on the road, and I love mine. I'm gonna go through some of the items that I have in here with you, but there's kind of a lot, so I'm gonna cut away and just do a voiceover. So right at the top, we have a couple of things that are pretty obvious. I like to carry cloth and thread of all sorts of colors. So I've got pretty much every color of cloth in the rainbow and pretty much every color of thread, including black and white, which I like to keep in here if I want to make a spell bag, or if I want to do some knot magic or some embroidery. I can do it with those, and that's really, really easy. You could even embroider like sigils, or you could draw a sigil onto the fabric and then just tie it up with the thread. It's really versatile, and it's just about whatever you choose to do with them. Next to that, I have some cone incense. This I don't really burn most of the time. Incense is going to be something that is more of depending on what you have and where you're staying. So if you're staying at a friend's house, you might be able to burn it there depending on what they have. If I'm somewhere outside, like if I'm camping somewhere, I can probably find a rock to burn this on, and that's pretty easy, or I can maybe throw it into the fire. So incense is going to be kind of tricky, but I've been able to do it before and it's worked perfectly well. Below the thread and cloth, I have my bags. These are little mesh bags that they won't perfectly hold anything in them, so if you have any dusts, powders, they won't really stay in there too well, so it's better for like whole items and whole herbs, things that are not powdered yet. They can be broken up into smaller pieces, but powdered is not really the way you want to go. At least for these kinds of bags. And if I wanted to do powdered, I would go for the cloth that I have from before. Behind all that, I have some candles. So I have some tea lights, a larger chime candle, which is a Wicca Wicks candle. I adore these, by the way. They are pretty thick on the bottom. They're bigger than the other chime candles I used to have, and I have every color, but I just chose to have a white one in here because white's gonna be the easiest and the most universal. By the way, if somebody ever tries to tell you that a white candle is less powerful because it doesn't have the color correspondence, it's not true. And I don't know why I keep hearing this online, but white candles are not any less powerful than colored candles. They are white. And if you think of like the light spectrum, when you put every color of light together, every like visible color of light, it all makes white. So white encompasses everything. It's everything and it's nothing. It can be fully whatever you need it to be. So white is not less powerful inherently. The same goes for black. Black is also universal. In pigments, when you put every color together, it makes black. So if anybody tries to tell you that white candles are less powerful for some reason, don't listen. And below the chime candles, I have my 7-day glass candles wrapped up in some black linen cloth. These are more if I'm gonna be staying somewhere for a little while, so like if I'm on vacation for a week, or I'm staying somewhere for an extended period of time, maybe over the holidays, I can bring these with me and they can burn down for longer. I typically won't need them, but you never know, and they happen to fit in here nicely, so I just put them on in. I also have this pack of containers that I got at Walmart. I think it was like $5. I've shown it in a video before. But this pack of containers holds a bunch of herb supplies for me. I'll go through it in a close-up. So I have left to right, top to bottom. I have lavender, rose petals, cloves, whole peppercorns, curly dock, it's also called yellow dock, I believe sometimes. Cinnamon, I have some of it crushed and some of it just broken up. It was whole sticks originally. Russian sage, some crushed up mullein, goldenrod, eggshell powder. Ooh. I think it's thyme? Whoopsies, this one I don't actually know. It might be thyme. I hope it's thyme. I think it is. No. Basil. It's basil, because I use basil for business. And then finally is some bay leaves. These are torn up, and typically when you use whole bay leaves, you write your manifestation on them and then burn them. I don't plan to be burning whole bay leaves just because of the way that they burn, so I just have torn up pieces and I would add those for their correspondences into like a bag or a candle or something. And the nice thing is they all fit together in this little container and they fit really well in my box. The last two items that I carry are some scissors and a lighter. The lighters, for obvious reasons, it's so that I can light the candles, and the scissors are for if I need to cut any thread or cut any of the cloth, or on the rare chance that there is a small plant somewhere that I might want to grab while I'm on the road, and I might want to snip it, and it's a little bit hard for me to just tear off with my hands alone. I can use these scissors to help me cut through something. If it's a little bit bigger or like wood-ish, I'm not going to obviously use the scissors for that, but you know, anything that's like green and organic like that. Anything that's like softer and more bendy, you know? And finally, my tarot cards. I actually have my Rider-Waite-Smith set that sits in here normally, and because I'm at home, I just keep it in the box as its storage place. And if I need to bring the box with me anywhere, I know that it'll already be in there and I don't have to pack it. So I keep my Rider-Waite-Smith cards in here, and so if I need to do any divination for any reason, either before spell work, or if I just need to do divination in general, if I want to do some meditation over a card, I have the tarot cards in there and I can use them for that. And I think that's awesome. That's about the long and short of it. For me, it's really important to be able to bring some of this with me, but at the end of the day, I always have my books, and I always have meditation to turn to, if nothing else, and I always have deity work. And I'll also say, if you're on the road and you don't want to have to worry about this, you don't have to. Your practice does not have to be daily necessarily, and I've certainly had times where I just took a bunch of time off, like a week or so. I just needed to spiritually recharge. Don't be afraid to take breaks. I've talked about this in the past. You don't have to be on your witchy stuff the whole time that you're awake. You don't have to be thinking about it 24/7. It's supposed to enhance your life, it's not supposed to run your life. So it can be as much or as little of your life as you want it to be. But if you want to be able to do it when you're on the road or staying at somebody else's place or wherever you are, these are some good options for you. If you want to know my general book recommendations for beginners, I actually have an article about that on my website, which is warriorwitchnike.com. Very simple. I try to update it here and there, but I'm not super consistent with it yet. But if you want to check out some of the articles I've written, go there. You can find me at Warrior Witch Nike on Instagram. You can find me at Warrior Witch N on Twitter. And if you want to hear more of my beautiful voice, you can check out the podcast that I co-host with my beautiful friend Georgina from the Darling YouTube channel. I'll link her below, and I will link to the podcast as well. The podcast is called Occultism with a Side of Salt. We're on YouTube and on Spotify. Subscribe, like, all that typical YouTuber stuff. And I'll see you guys next time, so blessed be. I love Halloween candy.